First inductee tonight. They call him James. Pint was his nickname. Barton, baseball player extraordinaire. If you read his bio, you'd be amazed. If you tried to add up all the triples, doubles, the singles, the stolen bases, etc., you'd be up in the 50s, 60s, etc. Coach Barry McCullough says, this man was good enough for the pros. Pint, good enough for the pros.
Hell yeah!
High-hand contact. Fast feet. Tremendous person. Arm strength. He could fly, they said. He was highly energized. He was so energized that they had to take him off Kool-Aid. You imagine getting on Kool-Aid? I mean, you know, now we have Gatorade, but before, Pint would drink Kool-Aid, and the next thing you know, he'd be so hyper he'd be flying all around. He could fly. Assistant coach Rich Herman says he was the best bad pitcher in the world, which means bad pitch hitter in the world. That means that he would stand under that plate with that ball, with that bat. That pitcher would throw a ball here, 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 here. They thought he was an octopus. He would hit it no matter where. And then once he hit it, he would fly down those bases. He was like the road runner without the meat. He just took off. He flew. The baseball field during his era used to be right next to the football field. They said that a couple of the coaches, Barry said, and Dave Cadis was telling me this, that when they had spring football practice, if they heard the crack of a bat and they knew that Pint was in center field, which he was, that's where he was. He was a great defensive player. He would fly through the trees. Football practice would stop as they watched him wend his way through the trees, snag the ball either in the fly or take the ball and sling it to the second baseman for the cutoff and in. Guy was tremendous. He was truly tremendous. 4 years starting center fielder. Well, he was also a basketball player. This man could, at 5'8", could stand underneath the basket from a standing start, go straight up and dunk the ball. With that, ladies and gentlemen, speed, arm strength, eye-hand coordination, and also a state champion high school baseball coach, James Pint Barton.
First of all, I want to thank the committee for giving me this honor. I was hoping that it was going to come one day, but I wasn't sure when it was coming. But I just was hoping it would come before I died. Because one thing I wouldn't want to do is have my boys come up here and tell you guys how bad I was. Okay? But I'd definitely like to thank the committee for me being inducted and also all the rest of the honorees up here to have this occasion today. But I was also told I have to set the tone. Because according to how long I stay up here will dictate how long they stay up here. Okay? I don't have a whole lot of things to say, but I end up saying a whole lot of things, but I don't have a lot to say. But the first thing is that, you know, none of this would be possible. And I'm going to try to keep myself calm without getting choked up. But the most important thing is none of this would have happened for me if it wasn't for my mother. I was raised in the house with 6 brothers and sisters in the project with no father. All my friends, 90% of them, are either in jail, have been in jail, or they're dead. My mother was the kind of mom that never let us get into any of that stuff. None of us have ever been in trouble in our lives. She put that whip on us, and I think, you know, we all turned out to be pretty good citizens because of my mother. My mother, unfortunately, very rarely got to see me play any sports because she had to hold 2 jobs. She had a full-time job as a nurse's assistant, and then she had a part-time job at the laundromat. So throughout my life, my mother very rarely had a chance to see me play. In college, maybe one time, she might have got to see me play. But she always supported me. I can remember when I was about 15, 16 years old, and we pretty much found out I was a pretty good baseball player. And a lot of people started calling my mom, telling me we need to go play on these teams. Well, we didn't have the money, we really couldn't afford it. So we had an old Pontiac Bonneville. It was yellow with a lime green top. And mom, like I said, my mom could not really take me to things because she had to work. But when these people start calling around, my mother said, I have to find a way to get you there. Now, the car that we had was not in really good condition. And it had a bad oil leak. So I remember my mom had to take me up to Pullman Park. We had no idea where we were going, but she said, we'll find it, we'll find it. She always said, the Lord will give us the way. He'll show us the path. So as we're going up to Pullman Park, we'd have to stop the car, pull over, put oil in the car. And I don't know how many quarts of oil we would put in going back and forth. But we had to stop to put oil in the car every trip we went on. She had to take me to Riverview one time in the car. And we had to continue to keep putting oil in the car just to get back and forth so the engine didn't go out on us. And I tell you, my mom was the best mom you could ever have. You know, when I was younger, I didn't think so. But as my life has went on and I became an adult and I've had children of my own, I really found out what it means to be a very good parent. I'm not the best parent in the world, but I try my best. But my mother, I mean, she was the best mother a kid could ever have, ever. And still up until today, my mother still called me on the phone and say, hey, I haven't heard from you. What's the problem? You got a mother, you know you have a mother. So she always reminds you that you have a mom. But I have the best mom in the world. And so Mom, I want you to stand up so everybody can see who you are. Okay, and next thing is, I also want to make sure that everybody recognizes that through all this baseball I've been playing, through all the baseball I've been coaching, I also have 2 boys at home that have to be taken care of. And my boys, same as me, my boys have a great mother. She has always been there for my boys. She has always been there for me. And when I was out doing my thing with baseball, she was home taking care of my sons. And my favorite girl, Maureen. The next thing I wanted to say is there's also other couple people that were really significant in my life. One was Barry McAuliffe, and the other one was Rich Herman. I can remember when I came here as a freshman. Initially, I was going to go to Kent State and take a baseball scholarship to Kent State. And I think I was up there one day, and the baseball field was like 7 miles away from the school at that time. And you had to catch a bus to go to practice. And I just thought that wasn't for me. So I can remember Clarion had wanted me. So I'm not sure if I called Barry or Rich on the phone. And I enrolled in Clarion late, so I had no place to stay. So Barry says, well, I guess you have to stay with me and my girls out in the country. So I get to Clarion, and my first family I met was the McAuliffes. Barry, his wife, and his dog. And he has some wonderful dogs and a very nice wife. And I think the first 3 or 4 weeks of school, I had to stay with Barry, get up early in the morning. He would drive me into campus so I could get to my classes. And I think after about 3 weeks, I found a dorm. And so things turned out pretty good with that. But also with Barry and Rich, they were like my fathers that I didn't have when I was a child. When I was a freshman, everything was okay, but as a sophomore, I had some struggles. In my first semester sophomore year, I decided that I was going home. And Rich come to me and say, you can't go home, because if you go home, you're never going to come back. And I just told him I had to leave. So I left school and went home, and I would bet you every single week I got a call from Rich or I got a call from Barry saying, what are you doing? I think at the time I told him I was working night stocking shells at John Eagle. And they said, you got to come back to school. They made sure that I was not going to stay home. Barry and Richard called me all the time to see how I was doing, to make sure that I wasn't coming back, because they were not going to let me be a casualty of my environment. And I got a whole lot of thanks to Barry McAuliffe and Rich Herman, also for who I grew up to be as a man. And I want to thank you guys, and I'll never forget you. There's also a few other people I'd like to mention. I'd like to mention these people are very close friends of mine, and I met them about 6 years ago. And there's people that you meet in baseball, that you meet people, and they just are acquaintances of yours through the baseball. Well, these people I met, and they became my friends, and they are my very dear friends. I don't think they really know how important they are to me. And I talk to them all the time. I love their kids, and that's the Brennans. And they're sitting right over here. And last but not least, I have my brother and my sister-in-law and a young man over there in the orange shirt, Terry. Terry is actually like my son to a degree. Me and his dad grew up in high school together in Alabama. When he moved to Ohio, I moved to Ohio. And we took both jobs at Hills Department Stores. When I moved back to Pittsburgh, he moved back to Pittsburgh. And so we were sort of attached at the hip. So Terry is just like one of my second sons. And I'm glad to see Terry here. And my brother and his wife are here. I wish I'd had some more of my family members get here, but they weren't able to come. But through all of this, nothing that I have in life could have come without all these people in my life. And also I have some support of my former baseball teammates here, which I haven't seen in years. I haven't seen, Kenny, I haven't seen Mike Riedel in years. Those guys told me they were coming. I was very glad to hear that even though they didn't see me, I was out of sight, but I wasn't out of mind. And I'm glad you guys are here to support me. And I just want to thank the committee for inducting me into the Hall of Fame. And when I'm dead, I'll still be living. Thank you very much.